NBA loves China. So when Enes Kanter Freedom started criticizing the Chinese Communist Party, it was only a matter of time. Welcome to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. I feel like Cassandra, cursed to see the future but powerless to prevent it. For months I've been covering NBA basketball player Enes Kanter Freedom and his ongoing criticism of the Chinese Communist Party. He's shown up to games wearing free Tibet shoes, stop organ harvesting shoes, even a pair showing him holding the severed head of Winnie the Pooh. This is remarkable considering how cravenly the NBA as a whole has kowtowed to the Chinese Communist Party. The NBA has contracts worth billions in China. They do not like their people criticizing China, which is why back in October I said this. And NBA player Enes Kanter continues to troll the CCP and the major corporations that do business in China. I wonder how long until the NBA tries to find an excuse to retire Kanter. Well, guess who was abruptly retired from the NBA? I hate being right. The Boston Celtics traded Freedom to the Houston Rockets, who promptly cut him from their roster. Ah yes, the Houston Rockets. You may remember their former general manager, Daryl Morey. Back in 2019, he tweeted his support for Hong Kong protesters. The owner of the Houston Rockets was not happy. He tried to distance himself from Morey's tweet. Morey eventually left the Rockets. But Morey's one tweet cost the NBA big time in China. They spent months trying to get back in the Chinese Communist Party's good graces. How appropriate that the Houston Rockets would be the one to finally axe Freedom. But Freedom saw it coming. He was already being sidelined, though his coach said that was strictly based on basketball and has nothing to do with his stance against the Chinese government. And here Freedom is in a recent interview with PBS.
Do you think they're trying to silence you?
Oh, for sure they are. Recently, whenever I have a conversation with someone from the NBA or one of my ex-teammates, they're like, listen, this is your farewell tour. Have fun with it, enjoy it. I hope you win a championship because I don't think you're going to sign another contract after this year.
Chinese state-run media did a victory lap. Chen Weihua, China Daily reporter and professional troll, tweeted, "Now you don't play basketball. John Bolton can play you more." John Bolton? What's that even mean? Look, I didn't say he was a good troll. And remember, Twitter is banned in China. The Global Times was jubilant, saying the anti-China NBA player was mocked. And they cited Chen Weihua. That's like applying to a job and putting yourself as your own reference. What? I know me best. The Global Times also wrote, Freedom wasn't a popular character in the NBA. He called out Lebron James, one of the greatest basketball players ever, last November, for not standing up to sponsor Nike and its alleged use of forced labor in China, which proved to be fictitious and fabricated. Now, just so we're all clear what's happening, the Chinese Communist Party, a regime that uses rape as a form of torture, has used direct or indirect pressure to get the NBA to cut an American basketball player from their team. That's the power and influence the Chinese Communist Party has in America. That's not good. In a recent event, Enes Kanter Freedom said when it comes to the NBA, you can talk about all the social justice, all the injustices happening all around the world, but when it comes to China, you cannot speak up. If you do, then you'd have to face the consequences. He's got a point. Once upon a time, he was celebrated for speaking out against the Turkish government's human rights abuses. But once he started talking about China, the pressure on him ramped up. But I don't think being booted from the NBA is going to silence him. In November, he tweeted this video with the message, "Keep limiting me on the court, I will expose you off the court." And he's just been nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize for speaking out against China. Which can mean only one thing. The CCP is going to attack Norway. Or at least punish Norway like the time they cut off Norway's salmon imports as revenge for a Chinese dissident winning the Nobel Peace Prize, despite the fact that the Nobel Peace Prize is not issued by the Norwegian government. The Chinese Communist Party doesn't care. And they didn't just target Norwegian salmon. They also abandoned bilateral free trade talks with Norway and froze diplomatic relations too. So what did the Norwegian government do? They spent years groveling to the Chinese Communist Party, trying to restore diplomatic ties and economic trade. Norwegian officials even refused to meet with the Dalai Lama in 2014. Norway's prime minister said it was because, specifically, they wanted to improve ties with China. But don't worry, it's not because China told Norway not to meet with the Dalai Lama. No, Norwegian officials came to that conclusion themselves, because they knew that the Chinese regime would be even more upset with them if they did meet with him. Here's what the Prime Minister told Norwegian media. It's not as if China said that we cannot meet with the Dalai Lama. We just know that if we do so, we're going to remain in the freezer for even longer. So Norwegian officials were anticipating what would make the Chinese regime angry and were preemptively changing their behavior. That doesn't make it better. In fact, that makes it so much worse. Which brings me back to Enes Kanter Freedom in the NBA. I'm not saying the Chinese Communist Party told the NBA to cut Freedom in the middle of the NBA season. The NBA just knew that if they didn't cut Freedom, they would be in even more trouble with the Chinese regime, which is so much worse. But maybe it will work out for the NBA, just like it worked out for Norway. After 6 years of groveling, Norway was finally able to normalize ties with China again. And salmon exports were booming. Until China blamed Norwegian salmon for a coronavirus outbreak. And that's the lesson, kids. If you don't stand up to the Chinese Communist Party, they're going to keep walking all over you. And now it's time for me to answer a question from a member of the China Uncensored 50 Cent Army. That's what I call fans who support the show on the crowdfunding website Patreon and Locals. Bill asks on Patreon, "It really sucks that YouTube is such a shill for the CCP. Sure wish you folks could find another platform. Regardless, I will continue to support your oh-so-important efforts to reveal the truth about the CCP." Well, thank you so much, Bill, for your long-time support. So yes, as I mentioned in an episode last week, YouTube censorship has gotten pretty extreme. Currently, we back up every episode on our website, ChinaUncensored.tv. But we have begun actively looking at alternative platforms. I know the big ones out there are Rumble and Odyssey. If you use them, let me know what your experience has been. Did you like them? And let me know if there are any other alternatives that I should know about. Thanks for your question and your support, Bill. Thank you for watching. If you want to help us in the fight against the Chinese Communist Party, all it takes is hitting that like button, subscribing, and sharing the show with your friends and family. And if you want to go that extra step, you can support the show on Patreon or Locals. Links to each are below. You'll get some cool perks and have the chance to ask me questions I'll answer on the show. And then there's always the merch store. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.